Hello, my name is Rob, and today I will um, talk about three news articles that I found. Um, One is about how climate impacts health. Another is about how um, regulations, cutting red tape, uh, disproportionately impact the environment. Um, so I will go to the first article. So oh, maybe I don't have it quite lined up. Okay, now, Hmm. So I'll have to just do it. This way. Does that work? Okay, so that works. So the first article is called "Ford Government's Red Tape Cuts Disproportionately Target the Environment," and oh, that is in the National Observer. It was published on July 8th of 2024. Oh, am I going down? No, I have two copies. And it says that the government come has come under scrutiny. Those with environmental groups and advocates who say that there's significant harm to the uh, public interest, wildlife, and environment. I'm just going to. They also say that um, it's a pretext to weaken environmental protections, cutting red tape, which benefit industrial emitters. Tony Morris of um, Ontario Nature said the onslaught of environmental regulatory and policy changes by this government are devastating for the long term health and well being of Ontarians and our biodiversity. These changes are not taking the province These changes are taking the province in the wrong direction at a crucial time for redefining the relationship between humans and the natural world. There's legislation, Bill 185, known as the Cutting Red Tape to Build More Homes Act. Um, Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks have received the most amount of uh, changes impacting environmental regulations. The government is talking about like environmental growth and savings for Ontario's developers, but uh, when promoting urban sprawl, it doesn't um, promote. There's no economic growth when you're making investments that don't make sense economically. This article does touch on that. Katie Krylov with the Wilderness Committee said environmental regulations and protections are based on scientific and social recognition that healthy ecosystems provide services with immense public value. And gave the example of forests and wetlands, how they clean the air and water, prevent flooding, and keep carbon out of the atmosphere. Um, she says that it's unclear whether these cuts have effectively boosted housing construction. Keith Brooks of Environmental Defence said that Ontario doesn't have a plan to meet its climate targets, and emissions in this province will rise as a result of increased use of gas for electricity and home heating, to put more cars on the road, and generally increase the use of fossil fuels. These are the moves that the Ford government has made, and the electricity sector has gone up at least 300% under Doug Ford as a result of some of the changes that um, the provincial government has made. Um, um, and there was also the subsidization of electricity as well. Those Ontario's emissions performance standards is weaker than the federal government's and allows large emitters to largely avoid paying for the carbon pollution. Those changes to protected species like the butternut tree, um, and those amendments to Ontario's Endangered Species Act in this article. Uh, so there was changes to red side dace minnow from 20 to 10 years. And this allows development in areas inhabited by a fish for less than a decade. So that's a significant change. And Ontario Nature said, most of Ontario Nature said, pushing a sprawl agenda will not solve the housing crisis, and will only exacerbate the biodiversity and climate crisis while paving over Ontario's precious farmland. Economically, sprawl is also incredibly inefficient and does not pay for itself. And I'll probably find other resources. There's Strong Town. I think it's Strong Towns that talks about the economics of urban sprawl and how it's not. It doesn't make sense economically. And this is very concerning. There's already a loss of over 156 hectares of wetlands across 17 municipalities, losing provincially significant wetlands designation, shrinking their protection. This is significant wetlands. This isn't even all the wetlands. Um, so that's highly concerning. The um, A former environmental commissioner, Dan Sachs, had a report, Back to Basics, I think it was, that talked about um, the need to further protect wetlands in order to reduce flooding. Um, and this was prior to um, changes to wetland regulations, that there was already inadequate wetland protections. And there was over 260-year wait to evaluate wetlands um, for environmental significance. So that part is very concerning. There was the Get It Done Act referenced in this article, cuts to provincial environment assessment times for key products like highways, railways, and electricity transmission lines, including Highway 413 and the Bradford Bypass. The Norwell did an article about this and the Toronto Star, impacting wildlife, uh, significant endangered wildlife. Tim Gray said that it's a public welfare issue. So increased urban sprawl, this makes sense. She's saying longer commute times, higher property taxes because it's not economic, and greater environmental degradation, disproportionately impacting low-income communities. And there's a quote: formerly protected provincially significant wetlands can now have roads and houses built in them, which threatens water filtration and cleaning, flood mitigation, and wildlife habitat. And if your home gets flooded, you have less housing. Those people that live in basements, basement apartments, sort of thing. Um, if if your house floods, you can't have a basement apartment. So there are all people that do live in basements, and if um, someone that's barely making it by, if the house or property floods, they might lose their housing support. So that's I could do a whole another video on that. Um, and yeah, so those are some of the things that were highlighted by the Abdul Motin Sofraz and the National Observer. So I will go to the next article, and I hope this. Okay, so this doesn't seem to be working. Article and face. Yeah, so I'll just have to do what I did before. Okay, and does it show up? Yes, it does. So transition. So this next article is about the relationship between climate change and human health. It was published in 2022. I'm sure that there's been a lot more developments since then. Um, and we also know that pandemics are caused by environmental degradation, or can be caused by environmental degradation as well. I made a video about that. Yeah, and if you're in the chat, please feel free to make comments. So this article is by Anne Fu, made in 2022, and called "The Relationship Between Climate Change and Human Health" in the Queen's Journal. The article talks about Dr. Anna Guns, who had a patient impacted by climate change. Several patients. The first was a baby from an indigenous community who had a severe lung infection. The mother was talking about how the community landing strip was flooded and going home was impossible because of that flooding. Flooding becomes more common with climate change. And then she said that the mother's situation was a consequence of climate change. The landing strip had been flooded at an unusual and unprecedented time of year. So the timing matters as well. A few decades later, someone couldn't return home because of an ice jam flooded their community. The patient had mild asthma, passed away. The town's residents had to be flown out one or two at a time. I think this is a different patient. So a patient had mild asthma who passed away because of hot and humid weather from cardiac arrest. And a child said that they were afraid of tornadoes because they couldn't go to the basement because it wasn't accessible. So accessibility is another issue, physical in this case. And then there was an unprecedented surge in viral infections during a July heat wave, which have not been seen previously. Dr. Guns has a background in geography and environmental science and made connections between human health and the climate because they were apparent in some of these cases. And we know that flooding causes mold. Too much moisture. Mold can cause asthma problems. Too much moisture is also an issue with breathing. There's another article. There's not another article. Another case. This time with Dr. Kim Tran, who talked about smoke in Scarborough, but it was coming from northwestern Ontario. And if you've been near a campfire or outside in Ontario, I think it was last year, or anywhere where there's wildfire, you know that it's harder to breathe. Those fine particulate matters. These things can cause cancer. and asthma. And then it's talking about 2021 being one of the worst wildfire seasons. The air quality and visibility warnings for Kingston. Oh, Environment Canada issued air quality and visibility warnings for Kingston. I think 2023 was a bad year as well. Just 1 degree in temperature brings about 10 to 15% more lightning, and lightning causes up to 30 to 50% of wildfires in the country. So the increased fires season seen last year, it's going to happen more often as a result of climate change. Climate change is not individual weather, it's a panel. And then those research into this, those spike in hospitalizations, heart and lung diseases. The healthcare is already burdened as a result of COVID-19 and cuts. Heat is an impact. Those above 26 degrees, people have negative impacts, health impacts. We know that people have died as a result of extreme heat. And it says the article says Kingston is one of the most at-risk cities for extreme heat events in the nation, above Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. So that's that's scary. And then those impacts to kidney stones, infectious diseases, respiratory illnesses, aggression, violence, and suicide. And relief won't be equal. Some people don't have access to air conditioning or adequate shelter, and we know people living in poverty were most likely to die as a result of extreme heat in British Columbia a few years ago. And then there's a label issue. Which Jeremy Malloy was talking about, and he's a historian of public health and integrity of creation and climate change at the Providence Center for Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation in Kingston. Governments aren't taking trees seriously. The Davis Tannery is an example where developers attempted to build on a wetland. So there's talk about how the medical field can influence climate decisions. It says some people might not respond to calls for climate action based on environment alone. Once you make the connection with their own health and your loved ones, they're more likely to engage and support climate action. And then there's an example about the coal-fired electricity plants. And once healthcare cost of air pollution were presented, the government took action. The government at that time. So that's that article. And I will go to the next article. Let me see. Transition. So I'll probably have to do the same thing. Oh, I have to. So this article is from the Guardian, and it's called "Shell Quietly Backs Away from Pledge to Increase Advanced Recycling of Plastics." Um, so Shell talked about how um, this promise was they're talking about breaking down polymers into tiny molecules that can be made into synthetic fuels or new plastics, and the company rolled back the promise without a lot of fanfare by saying that it's unfeasible in a sustainability report. They didn't call attention to this retraction. Um, and there have been concerns about this. The article says that research and environmental advocates have long raised concerns about advanced recycling, warning it can create even more toxic and planet heating pollution than virgin plastic production is even more energy intensive than traditional plastic recycling. And there's a um, impact for people who are already most vulnerable to contamination and climate threats, uh, likely racialized communities. Um, and then sorting and cleaning plastic is expensive. Um, and then experts have been saying that this has been impractical. Um, uh, the Center of Climate Integrity was looking into this. Um, so yeah, they did find that it was uh, not that not doing this is good, but it's a shady practice to promise something even though um, it, they've been told that it wouldn't be effective well in advance, um, and quietly backing away from the project. Yeah. So I thank you for listening. Let me see how I've been on here for about half an hour. Um, I don't see anyone in the comments, but I appreciate that you've listened, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.